236 missiles and drones hit Ukraine in a single night, but over 85% were shot down, mostly thanks to the new F-16s. Why are these fighter jets the key to making Putin reconsider his massive attacks on Ukraine? And what really went down in the first air battle between an F-16 and a Russian Su-34? On October 12th, a Telegram channel run by Russian propagandists published a black and white photo of their aircraft. It seemed to be another downed Russian plane, but it was the very same shootdown that launched an actual wave of mystery, which each media outlet spun in its own way. For example, ISW published a report stating that a Russian military blogger had confirmed the loss of a Su-34 fighter jet, but without giving details of the incident. At the same time, another channel, allegedly run by Russian airborne officers, reported that the Su-34 was shot down by a new Ukrainian F-16 fighter jet when Russian pilots attempted to drop high-explosive bombs about 30 miles from the front line. Moreover, the Su-34 is a particularly problematic enemy because these aircraft are capable of dropping long-range guided bombs on frontline cities from over 50 miles away, all while being closely covered by Russian aircraft and air defense systems. This sounds like an asterisk task for the Ukrainian military, doesn't it? If it's confirmed that the Su-34 was shot down by an F-16, it would be the first time Ukraine has taken down a Russian manned aircraft using a Western fighter jet. Even more, it would be the first time an F-16 has taken down a Russian plane in its entire 50-year history of military missions. Either way, unlike the Russian pilot, you can hit the like button on this video right now. Later, Russian propagandists accused their military bloggers of lying about the Su-34 crash, and of preventing Russian forces from developing plans to counter Ukrainian F-16s. But even if the Russian command does try to establish a countermeasure, it will be extremely difficult to implement. The reason for this is the Western concept of weaponry, which emphasizes superiority in accuracy and range. This also applies to older models, such as the F-16. Compared to Russia's Su-27 and Su-34, the American fighter is better armed and has a more powerful radar system. Thanks to this, it can detect Russian aircraft at a distance where it stays unnoticed. That can't be said about the Su-35, which is actually a modification of the Su-27, which still poses a real threat to American fighters. When it comes to weaponry, the Su-35 slightly outpaces the American fighter jet. For example, the Russian R-37M air-to-air missiles, which is mounted on the Su-35, can hit targets over 120 miles away. At the same time, the most powerful air-to-air missile, the AIM-120C8 AMRAAM-ER, attached to the F-16, can hit at just under 100 miles. The Su-35 could also outperform the F-16 in close combat due to its superior maneuverability. However, in modern warfare, close-range dogfights are unlikely. Everything is decided at long and medium distances, and it all comes down to who locks on to the other first. And most likely, it will be the Su-35 that locks on first, as its onboard radar can detect targets from about 125 miles away. However, as the experience of the Russia-Ukraine war shows, technological and weapon advantages can be neutralized through strategy and numbers. That's why it's crucial for Ukrainian pilots to not only get new jets, but also receive proper training. And just in time, the White House released a statement on its website announcing an increase in the number of Ukrainian pilots trained on the F-16 next year. Ukrainian partners are already preparing their aircraft for these pilots. For example, the Netherlands promises to provide all 42 of its F-16s. Ukraine expects 79 aircraft from its partners. Although this number is less than the 128 planes declared by the president for complete air superiority, even this number may be sufficient. The F-16s could be the spear that pierces the defenses of Russian bombing terror aimed at peaceful Ukrainian cities. And there's reason to believe in this, as Ukraine already successfully repelled a massive Russian attack at the end of the summer. Let's break down how that happened. On August 26th, Ukraine faced the largest attack since the start of the full-scale war. The Russians launched 127 missiles and 109 drones. Ukrainian air forces reported they managed to shoot down 102 missiles and 99 drones. Those are outstanding numbers. And sure, Western jets played a significant role in achieving such results. The General Headquarters of Ukraine clarified that F-16 fighters, together with anti-aircraft missile units, shot down Russian cruise missiles. This is exactly what Ukrainians needed. After all, F-16s can be much more effective than air defense systems. The point is that a cruise missile is quite a challenging target. It is small and flies at a low altitude, so even the most advanced radars cannot detect it when it descends to 160 feet. Because it flies below the horizon, ground-based defense systems are powerless in this situation. In addition, when attacked by cruise missiles, fighter jets can fly over them, which gives them an excellent view, especially compared to ground-based radars. All of this probably helped the Ukrainian Air Force destroy more than 85% of the targets that night. But why didn't Ukrainian pilots achieve such results with Su-27s or MiG-29s? The reason is that the F-16 has more advanced radar and optoelectronic equipment to detect small Russian targets such as cruise missiles or the infamous Shahed drones at long distances. The Soviet-style MiG-29 and Su-27 have to get so close to their targets that they have to be seen visually, effectively at gunpoint, which is very risky. However, even for F-16s, shooting down Russian missiles is also highly risky. During the night of the massive attack on Ukraine, one aircraft lost contact while approaching a Russian missile. The fact that one of the newly received F-16 fighters crashed in Ukraine was first reported by the Wall Street Journal, which believes that the American fighter jet was wrecked during a massive missile attack. According to their version, the F-16 crashed due to the explosion of a cruise missile that was shot down too close to the jet. You can only imagine how intense that clash must have been, filled with rapid maneuvers where every decision had to be made in split seconds. The Ukrainian pilot had to face 1.5 tons of deadly metal, a Russian Kh-101 long-range cruise missile. Given the still limited number of planes and pilots, this is a significant loss for Ukraine. But sadly, in a war of this scale, such sacrifices are inevitable. Thanks to the F-16s, Putin now has yet another unexpected problem to deal with. On October 14th, Ukrainian monitoring channels reported that Russian bombers refused to carry out the mission that night because they were afraid of an F-16 that may not have even been there. The fact is that with the appearance of American fighters in the Russian-Ukrainian war, any Ukrainian plane that takes off may look like an F-16 to the Russians. This is because the Russians cannot identify the type of craft on radar, as they can only see its markings, which look the same for all small fighters. So, if the Ukrainian Air Force launches even a Su-29 or Su-27, the Russians could, in fact, mistake it for an F-16. But you can't win a war with psychological pressure alone. Just like you can't get up-to-date videos about the Russian-Ukraine war without subscribing to our channel. So you'd better do it right now. And better yet, give us a thumbs up. In turn, we will tell you how the Ukrainians can use F-16s for their offensive. If the Ukrainian Air Force is able to control the skies, the American fighter jets can launch intense attacks on the Russians on the ground. This is the same tactic the Russian army uses to advance along the front lines. For such tactics, the Ukrainian Air Force could equip its F-16s with JDAM-ER glider bombs. Previously, they were adapted for Ukrainian MiG-29 and Su-27, but due to the specifics of the adaptation, they had a drop range of only 25 miles instead of the claimed 43 miles. However, when used with F-16s, JDAM-ERs can be dropped at the desired 43. Additionally, F-16s can serve as an effective carrier for AGM-88 HARM missiles, allowing them to effectively destroy Russian radars and air defense systems. Ukrainian officials have repeatedly stated that Ukrainian forces are also expected to start deploying their versions of large glide bombs. Retired Polish Brigadier General Jarosław Kraszewski also believes that the arrival of fighter jets could change the balance of power in the Russian-Ukrainian war. He added that if Ukraine were allowed to strike deep into Russia with Western-supplied weapons, it could cyclically and effectively destroy the Kremlin's logistics. When this happens, the Russian army's logistics will be cut off from the main forces. At that point, the Ukrainian Army Command will be able to deliver a devastating blow that could change the course of the war. However, there are many threats to the F-16 that could prevent the fighter jets from surviving such a grand turning point. American fighters are a priority target for the Russians, so their delivery is accompanied by a high degree of secrecy. They are stored at dispersed bases with underground or fortified shelters, along with decoys. However, this, in turn, complicates logistics for Ukrainians. In addition, the F-16 is not a magic pill. It is machinery, and it can be destroyed. Russia has both the latest ground-based air defense systems, such as the S-400, and the 5th generation Su-57 aircraft, which have significant advantages over the F-16 and can destroy them. However, since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, the Russian military-industrial complex has been able to produce only 4 copies of the Su-57, which gives Ukrainians some positive news. And finally, the arrival of the F-16s marks a shift for Ukraine's Air Force toward NATO standards. This is a huge positive for Ukraine, as NATO weapons perform much better when used with the jets they were designed for, rather than being retrofitted onto outdated MiGs. While there may not be many F-16s in Ukraine just yet, their power shouldn't be underestimated, especially by the Russians. And as for you, dear viewers, make sure to subscribe to our channel and leave a comment.